Hi guys and welcome to episode 29 of Beat to the Punch. I'm joined on the line by Riku. Hi killer. Riku, how's things?
Yeah, good, thank you. Looking forward to fight this weekend. I'll be there at the O2, so looking forward to that a lot.
Yeah, and you've got Craig Scott coming down, or you've got a lot of the Gloves Red boys coming down. Yeah, see that
It's a
Sam
Scottish
O'Reilly's
takeover.
gone. Oh man, it looks as if it's going to be awesome. I'm kind of regretting coming down for Lomachenko. I've fucking made a boo boo and should have came for this one, but you know what? There'll always be other chances, you know. But I hope it's shite. I hope it's shite. He's all have a terrible night.
Yeah, I mean, it won't be.
And we're kind of hoping that Brendan, he's been held up in the public transport over in the States, but we're kind of hoping Brendan will jump on a bit later. But so, since Brendan's not on the call, we'll start off with the card at the weekend there in Newcastle. And we'll start off with the main event, which was Lewis Ritson versus Robbie Davis Jr. This actually turned out to be quite a good fight. How did you like this fight?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good fight. I wouldn't call it fight of the year necessarily, but it was a really good fight, and both fighters gave they all, and I think actually moving up for um, moving up for Ritson actually helped him a lot because I'm not sure he could have kept up with that pace of 135.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a good performance for Ritson, don't get me wrong. He worked well off his jab, but my God, he takes far too much punishment. You know,
He does. He does.
he's actually, do you know who he's like? He's very like Robbie Davis Jr. He's a guy that just, he stays in the pocket a bit too long and ends up taking needless punishment. You know, what did you make of his actual performance all round? Was it a good building block, a good starting place?
I think it was a aggressive performance, but the talk of him fighting against the winner of Taylor Prograis is far fetched. Still didn't see a European level performance there. Performance that I'd confidently say that he could go to European level and dominate at that weight class. I think it was a very good, solid domestic performance, but in terms of the next level, that's still missing, and I'd hate to see him be thrust into the world level and take a beating. So I think there's a lot of work they can do. Richard's still a relatively young fighter, so they can definitely improve him, and maybe they just take him sparring on the road. Maybe he has a few fights that aren't as high profile just to learn on his trade because he's a guy that's used to blasting everybody out, but he can't do that at 140. So I think he's going to have to adapt.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about sorry, I was talking about his jab. A fantastic jab, but do you get the feeling that they're going to have to have a word in his ear and tell him he's going to have to start working off of the jab? He's going to have to start like, hiding behind it. Every attack or every exchange doesn't need to progress into bombs. Do you know what I mean by that? It feels as if he's getting in there and he still thinks that he's going to be able to bang people out. And I just got the feeling that he's no got that power that we thought he had. He's definitely no got it at 140, and I don't know if he ever really had it at 135.
Yeah, you often see this as punchers neglect the fundamentals of boxing because they are so often just convinced that they can take a guy out, and once they go up the levels, they can't take everybody out. Somebody that springs to mind a higher weight class is someone like Curtis Stevens or Lemieux, who are two guys like that took everyone out, but then when they've had to box throughout their career and they've had to face tougher oppositions, they haven't been able to do that. And that's sort of, I guess, the biggest worry with Ritson is I'm not convinced that if it's a boxing match, that he can actually use that jab well enough to win a boxing match in a relatively boring fight.
Do we think that it's maybe Ritson gets a bit excitable because that arena on Saturday night was buzzing, and it's been great to see Newcastle actually get a shot at like the big boxing events starting to go to Newcastle now, and I mean, you must be talking about there must have been around 10,000 there. Do you think like that's part of Ritson's over eagerness to get involved?
Yeah, I mean, it's just human reaction, is it? Natural human reaction that when you've sold a lot of tickets, you've got a lot of home support, you want to put on a show and you want to make it entertaining. And at the end of the day, all of these guys are fighting for their own health and their own, they're not fighting there necessarily to entertain the crowd. The first and foremost, they need to protect their health and safety. And secondly, they need to win. And thirdly, they need to entertain. But I think he expects they can knock out any guy that he faces. And I think that's going to cost him in the long run.
What about the matchmaker at Matchroom? Does this guy deserve a raise? Because as far as I could see, Robbie Davis Jr. was the perfect opponent for Ritson to step up. He was a guy, he's an opponent that's achieved enough that it would sell tickets. He's good enough that it would cause problems, but he doesn't punch that hard, so you never really had to worry about him getting Ritson out of there. When I was watching, I was like, this is a fantastic bit of matchmaking. If you're trying to build a guy up at 140, what do you think about it?
I think it's great matchmaking, and I think it's Paul Reddy, the matchmaker, isn't it? So Robbie Davis Jr. is from Liverpool as well, so I imagine he brought a few people over. The challenge for Ritson is the way they're talking about him at the moment, that he'll be going for world title. I think that's maybe a bit too soon. Um, Maybe what they'll do is they'll try and game against the winner of the golden contract. I guess that makes sense. The 140 tournament, whether it's someone like O'Hara Davis, Tyron McKenna, whoever wins in the end, or Yigit, that might be a good fight. I think he still needs to have another fight at that domestic slash European level, just to see where he's at. But against the guy that isn't a bagger, and then it's only right for him to earn big money and go for the world title at some point.
Well, I mean, we were hearing Eddie Hearn and we've heard suggestions that they're going to try and chase down Josh Taylor and they're going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Now, that to me sounds like maybe Eddie's already suspecting that this boy's got a shelf life and they might be wanting to cash in on that big money in Newcastle, and before he falls off the cliff against somebody, maybe just say like a Jack Catterall or
Yeah.
a O'Hara Davis, guys like that. Does that what it reeks at you? Because surely there's so many levels to go, and there's so much more experience Ritson needs before he even starts thinking about guys in the top 10.
Yeah, I agree. And if you want to build someone like Redson, then you game against someone like Victor Postel, but that's a dangerous fight with very little, I'd say, sort of very little financial reward or really very little intrigue. So I think he's a perfect easy defense and a big kind of ticket selling event against Josh Taylor. So I think that's the long term play that they're trying to do. But of course, it all depends on whether, um, if Taylor wins this weekend. If he does, then that sort of makes sense. If he doesn't, I imagine Taylor might go up to 147. But yeah, I think it's sort of cashing out, and that's the natural option because in the UK, someone like Jack Catterall, Frank Warren's not going to lay in fight against Ritson unless the money's obscene. So I don't really see there be many other options unless they risk him against a foreign fighter.
Well, here's one for you. After watching Lewis Ritson, do you think that Lewis Ritson would beat O'Hara Davis? Because I don't. Not for what I've seen so far. And I mean, so that's how far away from world level I think he is.
Yeah, I mean, I was there at the O'Hara Davis against Vasquez fight, and O'Hara Davis looked terrible in that fight. So it really depends what O'Hara Davis turns up. If it's the same one that was fighting before the Josh Taylor fight, then yes, I think he can. O'Hara Davis can give Ritson a good run for his money if he boxes well. Um, but if it's that O'Hara Davis that we saw a couple of months ago at York Hall on the MTK show, then I think Ritson would just outwork him.
Yeah, well, there is that. There is, O'Hara can be boring,
Yeah, negative. And
Yeah,
Ritson. Whatever you say about Ritson, he does work hard in those fights. I mean, he does throw a lot of punches. He comes forward, and he's one of those fighters that it's easy for judges to score for him because he's very kind of attack minded.
yeah. I don't think there's any doubt with that Ritson fight that Robbie Davis Jr. came in to win, and I thought Robbie Davis Jr.'s tactics were spot on. I think he thought that Ritson wouldn't be able to keep it up for 12 rounds and he could take him later on in the fight. But I was quite surprised with how Ritson paced himself. As someone I would say, I don't want to keep having a dig at the boy. I thought his jab was spot on. I thought the way he mixed it up a wee bit with his attacks was superb. And I think how he paced himself for the 12 rounds kind of showed that he's more suited to the 140. He's not struggling, he's not killing himself to make the weight. Do you think a bit of that came into play?
I think definitely. I think the game plan for Robbie Davis Jr. must have been that they think Ritson tires after a few rounds and then they can take advantage. But I think the added weight, I guess, not having that pressure to perform, that definitely played a part. And, he was an England international as an amateur. Um, so this myth about Ritson being found on a Phil Jeffries show out of nowhere and becoming, a star, it's not true. I mean, this guy was an England amateur, an England international, fought nearly 100 amateur fights. So it's not like he hasn't been well schooled as a boxer. It's just been partly that because of where he's been based, he hasn't got the same opportunities as maybe fighters in London have. And I think he's been rushed because he knocked everybody out and that didn't work out. So maybe they are trying to go back to a bit more method, like a slower boxing and, just being a bit more meticulous in everything, preparation, everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to finish up on Rickson, I mean Rickson, sorry about Ritson. Just to finish up on Ritson, I mean we have heard the Eddie Hearn stuff, and we have heard the guys talking about him going to world level. Now we know that that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But where do you think the next logical step is for him? Do you think it's like this is a guy that we're going to have to build slowly? Get him at European level, let him have a couple of fights there, and then maybe go find a career relic, or as you said, a Victor Postol. But the Iceman that is a very dangerous fight just due to the size of him. But there's no. There's no reason to kind of force this Josh Taylor thing and fast track him because there's a hell of a lot of good fights for him, guys underneath that world level. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't think, fighting the US on a DAZN card away from the spotlight, lower down the card might be a good idea. Even depending on what happens in the golden contract, someone like Anthony Giggett might be good. He's a European level fighter, but he's quite small, doesn't hit hard at all. That might be a good fight.
Yeah, he's a tough motherfucker, him as well, though, isn't he?
He is definitely. But he'd be the perfect opponent. There's guys in the US as well that might be quite good. These war horses like Beltran and these guys that have come up from lower weight divisions as well. They're tough guys, but I wouldn't think would cause too many problems at this stage of Ritson's career.
Yeah, I really hope that they take their time with the boy this time. I think they tried that fast track at 135 and it really come back to bite him, and it's probably set him back a little bit. But you know what? It's always like that thing Alex Arthur says. He's like, you learn more for your defeats than what you do for your victories. So hopefully Ritson gets back and he's learnt for that. Maybe he'll have a bit more of a say in where he goes next. He'll not want to be fast tracked. Maybe learn his trade a bit more.
Yeah, his management team, Phil Jeffries, a very good manager. So I'm sure they'll make the best plans. When he was fast tracked, you can't blame Matchroom for doing that because myself and many others were so high on Ritson thinking that anything you put in front of him he's going to demolish in a few rounds. And, Patera must have been a 10 or 12 to 1 when he fought. So I do imagine that they just got it wrong on the night, and Ritson had problems making the weight. So, maybe, yeah. So I think that's part of the problem, and now they've learned their lesson, and they'll just take their time a bit more.
Yeah, and just that's around about the same time as when Ritson fell off the cliff against Patera. We also had Ted Cheeseman, who was very similar, and he's a guy looking to rebuild his career, and he was on the undercard as well, fighting Scott Fitzgerald. This ended up quite an intriguing one. It was a fight in maybe two halves, but it's kind of split some fans. I wouldn't say split fans down the middle, but there is a certain amount of people that think that Cheeseman done enough to win that fight. Now, I don't think so. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't agree with the people that train with Cheeseman. That think that I think it was a very close fight. It could have went either way. I don't think Cheeseman definitely won that fight. If they would have scored it for Cheeseman, if they would have scored it for Fitzgerald by a round or two, I wouldn't have really minded if it would have been a draw. But I don't think Cheeseman definitely did enough, because the second half of the fight was Fitzgerald's fight, and also Cheeseman didn't win the first 7 rounds, for example, comprehensively, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of this narrative and, kind of robbery talk, wouldn't he? This kind of talk comes from the commentary team. And the commentary team really had a bad night, even for Sky standards, when they were doing this fight. It was as if Scott Fitzgerald was an afterthought. And I mean, at the start of the fight, when Cheeseman was kind of boxing off the back foot, he wasn't really doing it. A lot of his punches were coming off of the hands. But if you listen to the commentary team, you'd have thought he was boxing Fitzgerald's head off. And then they started giving us the kind of narrative of, oh, this is what Fitzgerald is, and look at how Cheeseman's beating him. But and then as soon as the fight started turning, it was, it started feeling like when the fight was turning, they started making the first half of the fight seem a lot more one-sided than it actually was if they went back and watched it. If that makes sense, when you're listening to them in the 10th round, when the fight was clearly going Fitzgerald's way now, they were kind of talking about the first 6 rounds as if this is the way Cheeseman was beating Fitzgerald up in the first half, and that just wasn't the case.
Yeah, it was a lot of revisionist history in the sense that they saw the first half being so one-sided that there was nothing that Fitzgerald could do to win that unless he would have knocked down Cheeseman a couple of times. And it felt to me that Sky were just so overly focused on the fact that they want Cheeseman against Fowler rather than Fitzgerald, who's from Preston and doesn't sell as many tickets, or you can't have shows in Preston, that they sort of overlooked that. Subsequently, even Eddie Hearney's post, fight interview said something like, "Oh, I had, it was something like, oh, I thought that Cheeseman won it clearly, but then, it could have went either way by a round or two," or something silly like that, which was quite contradictory. I don't really understand why the commentary team are so linked to the promotional outfit where they actually want to have a specific fighter winning, because for me it takes away from our watchers, the viewers' experience.
Yeah, I think that as well. It kind of they go ahead with building this narrative, and they already get the next fixture in their mind before the fights even took place. And I don't know. I suspect it is deliberate, but there's a chance it may not be deliberate. And for what I hear, Alex Arthur, who was doing the zone commentary on the fight, Alex Arthur, I think, had him up by 4 rounds or 5 rounds. Had Cheeseman up by had Cheeseman up by 5 rounds. And Alex Arthur's usually a guy who calls things right down the middle. So, I mean, again, I don't want to question Alex Arthur's integrity, but I don't know how you could have that fight that wide.
No, neither do I. I mean, that would, if you had it by 5 rounds, that would mean that, Fitzgerald just won 2 of the 12 rounds.
Yeah, it is. But let's speak more about the boxers, the performance. First of all, let's talk about Cheeseman. He came out, he surprised everybody. He was boxing off the back foot, and he was really giving Fitzgerald something to think about the first half of the fight, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and I think he boxed really well, and that was probably Cheeseman's best performance that I've seen. Um, so he did box really well, and I think it was one of those fights where both fighters leave the fight were more credit than they went in. There were, it showed that Fitzgerald isn't just a flash in the pan, and Cheeseman can still compete at that level. But I think he boxed really beautifully. But what he was doing is he was, expanding a lot of energy doing that. So when he was boxing the back foot, um, Fitzgerald was making work really hard. I'm not sure whether Fitzgerald was in the best condition of his career in that fight, but Cheeseman allowed Fitzgerald to take the centre of the ring and was working around him.
Yeah, I did notice that. He kind of went for Ted Cheeseman when he was feeling confident and fresh. When he was going round the outside, he was, it just seemed to be wasting unnecessary energy. And then it seemed as if there was no middle ground. He went for being very energetic to looking very flat-footed in the space of no time. It wasn't a gradual. It was as if it was like he fell off a cliff. And it was actually quite surprising how quick the fight started getting away from him. But I've got to admit, I didn't think Ted Cheeseman had that in his locker to go out and box to a game plan. I thought he was kind of more a guy who get caught up in the emotion of a fight, and that's why he was always entertaining. And I've got to admit, I was kind of expecting our usual Ted Cheeseman in there against Fitzgerald, and I was quite disappointed the first 6 rounds. I was like, because I was expecting a bit of a tear up. But I suppose it showed you the tactics were spot on, because when Cheeseman slowed down Scott Fitzgerald's pressure, and when he actually got up close and could close that gap, it was far too good for Cheeseman inside.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, spot on what you said. I think Cheeseman, if he had more power, I think he could have probably made more of a dent into Fitzgerald in the earlier rounds, which would have meant that he wouldn't have that marauding comeback in the second half of the fight. So I think partly his tactics worked, but he didn't really have the power to execute those tactics against an opposition, against a fighter that, is quite similar in terms of ability that he is.
So, what do we think Scott Fitzgerald goes next?
I think he's at the level where he should be looking at European level, or maybe it depends how the camp went. If there was issues with his preparation and professionalism in the camp, then I think another sort of domestic level fight makes sense. If the camp went well and it was just a bit flat on the night, I think he's ready for European level. But he's one of those guys I think you just have to take your time in building, because he isn't ready for world level yet. But if you give him enough time and you could put him into good learning fights and let him hone his craft, because for me it's not really clear what Fitzgerald is particularly good at, apart from having a big heart and having a lot of stamina and being gutsy. So I think European level fight might make sense.
Yeah, it's obvious that Matchroom are going to want to put him back in with Cheeseman and what do you call him, the Scouser?
Fowler.
Yeah. It looks to me as if that's what they're going to try and make him do. But I think that Scott Fitzgerald's one of these guys, is, see, if you're not progressing him, he's not somebody you could give like an easy fight. If you give him an easy fight, he won't train properly, and we've seen it in the past with him. He's not a great trainer. He struggles to get motivated. So I think that, as you say, the European level, they've got to go to next with this boy. I think if they put him back over old ground, then there's a good chance that he might self-destruct, or not give himself the best put yourself in the best footing to go forward.
Yeah, I think someone like Sam Eggington might be good, or Jason Wellborn, and maybe in a few fights' time we put him in against somebody like Beefy Smith in a world title eliminator. So keep it British or European level, but not somebody that is too much of a big step up in terms of world level, because I don't think he's ready for that, at least in the next year or so.
Martin Bakole, he was in there against Kevin the Kingpin. only the third guy, I believe, ever to stop him, but, you take that with a pinch of salt. But it's good to see Martin Bakole now starting to get at least a wee bit of fights and get him active with Matchroom. What do you think is the plan is with Big Martin Bakole?
I think they just have him there as an opponent at some point in a 50-50 matchup. So maybe he'll end up fighting against Hergovic or, Usyk or Joseph Parker. But I think, keeping him active is great for his career. We get to see actually how good he is because Billy Nelson has been talking a lot about him, sparring against some good guys. The Hunter fight, he wasn't clearly very good at that night, but he went to Poland against Mariusz Wach and redeemed himself. Now beating Kevin Johnson, good fight, good performance. So I think he's one of those guys that maybe he needs to fight against Robert Helenius or someone like Takhan that we see at what level he's at. But I think, excellent performance. And he's one of those guys that's very intriguing as a heavyweight because he's already lost a fight. So you can put him in tough. And I'm sure, having him in tough fights, I don't think people would mind him seeing him as an opponent for the likes of, Dillian White, even if there's a takeover fight or someone like Hugh Fury against him would be a very intriguing fight. So maybe even the win of Price against Chisora. There's lots of fights that can be made from in-house, but good news, and it was good to see him perform at the level that he's been spoken about for the last few years.
I'm kind of hoping that once he gets to, ranked, maybe in the top 15, then you'll see him, maybe there's a good chance he'll get put in with your Dillian Whites or, your Derek Chisoras, but it's just getting him up to that stage. And I think that what people have struggled with so far is they've been struggling to get him fights because he's a guy for East Africa, I think it is. He's for Congo.
Yeah, Congo.
Yeah. So he's a guy for East Africa. He came here to watch his brother Junior against Tony Bellew, Junior Makabu, who I think's actually picked up a world title now. But anyway,
is he fighting for a world title?
He's either got like an intern title or he's
because he beat that Russian guy a few weeks ago, didn't he? Which he wasn't favoured for, but it turned out to be quite a good fighter.
Yeah, and I think he won a fight before that as well that he was supposed to lose. That nobody fancied him for. So I know that he's got some.
What do you call it? The Crusher, the Russian guy that looks like a Viking.
Oh, I can't remember who it was, but I remember seeing it on Twitter. But that's us way off on a tangent. But what I'm saying is, we've got Martin Bakole. He doesn't bring a lot to the table, so he really needs somebody like Eddie Hearn to get him onto shows. And one thing about Eddie is he will always get you a fight, and he's not going to cost Eddie a lot of money. So with all these cards, these next gen cards, and these cards in Newcastle and Liverpool, and Martin Bakole's the ideal guy for Eddie Hearn to go out there. He's cheap, you can match him tough, and he's a heavyweight, and you know what it's like. Us fans love heavyweights. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. All we want to see is heavyweight fights on the undercard, and he's the perfect kind of guy. I actually think he'd be the perfect opponent for someone like Joe Joyce at this stage of Joe Joyce's career, but they're on the other side of the street. But even fighting against, I wouldn't mind to see him fight against someone like Dave Allen, to be honest.
Yeah, I know he's been chasing that fight for a while. I don't think Dave wants any of that smoke.
No.
But I just thought we would mention that before we jump on to... we'll go across the pond, and it was after Baterbiev was taking on Gvozdyk. This actually turned out to be a bit of again, it was kind of the two good style matchups, we'll say, but you kind of learnt that Artur Baterbiev is one bad man.
Yeah, he is.
What did you make of Baterbiev in this fight?
I think how I saw the fight was that Gvozdyk was doing the right things. He was doing the right things in terms of how he was boxing and everything, but the referee let Baterbiev do quite a lot of stuff. So, push Gvozdyk's head down, hit him up close, all the sort of old school tactics. And because Baterbiev was so much of a bigger guy, it looked like a cruiserweight was in the ring or to light heavyweight, that every time when they were exchanging, he took more out of Gvozdyk. And at the end, I think it was just the power and the physical strength for Baterbiev that won in that fight. But I underestimated Baterbiev as a boxer before this fight. But yeah, what a great fight, and what credit to both of these guys.
Yeah, I'm actually 100% agree with you. I was the same. I just thought Baterbiev was a banger. You know, he's just in there to get guys out as quick as he can. But I think he proved the other night that he does have the footwork. He can cut the ring off. I mean, the way he reminded me of Triple G, the way he cuts the ring off. And he really gave Wozniak nowhere to go after a couple of rounds. You know, just slowing down that wee half a step. It really did show as well. I think in the first round when he kind of it get called as a knockdown to start with, and then we had a bit
Yeah.
of VAR, and you know the right decision came out that it was a slip. But even just, I would say that Vozdik's attitude kind of changed there. I don't know if he maybe felt the strength for the guy that he was in with or what, but you know it just felt as if he was always second best, even when he was landing the bigger punches. He was always coming off second best in the exchanges. You know, you never get the feeling that he had Baterbiev hurt. Whereas every
No.
time Baterbiev landed something, you could see it gradually just breaking Gvozdyk down. Um, you know, it was quite a strange fight because you know Baterbiev did get his chin tested because Gvozdyk did catch him quite a few times. And
Definitely.
he fought better in the pocket than we thought. Now, Teddy Atlas and that told us before that he wouldn't be fighting like that. You know, he would be fighting on the outside. But, how, I mean, what do we make of that? Let's take that point. I've seen a few people say that Teddy Atlas should have threw the towel in after the first knockdown in the 10th. What was your view on this?
I think at that weight, there's always the chance of, one lucky punch. I mean, I don't know the fighter, so I can't really tell whether he should have thrown the towel off or whether he shouldn't have done. He was definitely done when he came in the ninth round. So there's argument to say that at that point he could have thrown the towel in and said enough is enough.
Yeah, find your body, or let your body find you, or something. He was shouting.
Exactly. I mean, he knows the heart, obviously, of Gvozdyk, and Gvozdyk was hurt in the Stevenson fight, continued and won that fight. I think it's the trainer's call. He could have thrown the towel in, but I don't really have any objections that he didn't.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I just, I think that you get two Teddy Atlases. You get the pain in the arse Teddy Atlas that you see on co-commentary. You get Teddy Atlas sometimes that you see in interviews, and the guy is just a jackass, and you know he can just spout shit, and it's all about the Teddy Atlas show. And then I think that you also get the Teddy Atlas that you usually get in the corner, and you'll listen to him, and you'll go, I mean, he's talking sense here. He's guiding his guy through the fight. But I think there's definitely a case to say that Atlas, that it was the other personality, the showbiz personality, the motivational speaker, and Teddy Atlas that was starting to come out the other night, because in the ninth round there was a beautiful shot Baterbiev landed. Gvozdyk turns away and makes out that it's low, and it was nowhere near low. You know, it couldn't have been placed any better. He turned round, and right then, I knew. I don't know Gvozdyk, but I knew right away this guy is wanting out of there. He doesn't want to be there. And that was in the ninth round. He gets put down in the 10th round, and then he took punishment for the rest of that ninth. He took a hell of a beating in the 10th before he gets stopped. I think there was a good argument to say that, you know what, Teddy, that his body's not going to come back. His reason he's tired is because his body is exhausted, and he's took a hell of a lot of punishment in there.
Yeah, I think the challenge is if a trainer pulls the fighter out of the corner, we end up calling the fighter quitter. There's it's the ongoing argument that we have that there's no middle ground on when you should pull your fighter out. Is a fighter a quitter? do quit the fight. But, even you have said it before that you admire the fact that during Triller and Manila, neither guy, was given an inch and they're willing to die in that ring. I think ultimately the trainer knows him, knows his fighter best, and as long as it's not taking sort of sustained damage. I mean, they were heavy shots and he was taking damage, but they weren't sort of head shots and they weren't shots which, his head was snapping back. I think in this instance, I don't really see a clear reason why he should pull him out. But I do see your point as well, which is that he wasn't going to win that fight. So there's no whether the referee should have jumped in earlier. That's another question that needs to be asked. Maybe after the first knockdown, or the second one, the referee should have jumped in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's also a case of, see if the advice coming back for the corner is let your body find you. What the fuck does that mean? I mean, I don't understand.
But we don't know what these guys, what they talking about. That's, I think, one of the things that was quite, after the Kovalev against Yard fight. One of the big things was that people were saying Tunde wasn't saying anything sensible in the corner. And Tunde's argument was, well, if you listen to me in any of the fights in the corner, this is how I communicate with Anthony. If Teddy Atlas would have said that and Gvozdyk would have won the fight, it would have been seen as genius, the same way how it did against Michael Moorer. It's a very tricky thing, the relationship between a fighter and a trainer, how they communicate in the corner in that 1 minute. It's hard to say from the outside what you can say in that 1 minute and what impact it will make.
Yeah, I think that's Brendan just joined us on the call.
Yes.
So
our man from New York.
Yeah, man.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, he loud and clear. So Brendan, we'll just talk about Gvozdyk Baterbiev. Great fight for the other night. How did you see it?
He's a bad man.
Yeah.
Clear victory for him. I think maybe he lost maybe a couple rounds. He was just asserting his will the whole fight.
Was a very underrated boxer up until the other night there. Did it surprise you just how good this guy was in the ring?
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone was picking the nail to hammer him down, but certainly went the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I liked about him was he doesn't really waste a shot. See when he's going to load up, he makes sure that punch is going to land, and it makes, you just seen Gvozdyk's face the other night. It was absolutely taking his soul out of the fight. But the thing is, I don't think Gvozdyk did anything wrong. What was your views on this? Is there anything he could have did, it would have changed the outcome of that fight?
I don't think so. No, I mean, I think he gave it a great effort. I think the corner advice was kind of like, theatrical Teddy Atlas, we're firemen and shit like that. But, let your body find you, all that shit. I mean, he wasn't giving him any real tactical, advice, but I couldn't, he could have had anyone in that corner and it was only going to go one way.
Yeah, well, me and Riku were just speaking about just before you came on. I've heard a few people say, no, I wouldn't say that it was a disgrace that Gvozdyk shouldn't have been pulled out, but it was really gone that way. And when you go back to a corner after being really beat up in the ninth, I thought Teddy Atlas to tell this guy that, let your body find you. You're going like, well, really, what you're saying is, I really don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe he wanted to give him one more round, I don't think Teddy's someone who lets someone out there lightly while they're getting the shit kicked out of him, but maybe he wanted to see what he had, in the next round or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But
and maybe they had a sense that they were ahead on the scorecards. Sometimes people look over the judges' scorecards and maybe they had a sense, and he thought that if he could coast through this round and win one of the last rounds, he could arguably win on the scorecards.
Well, that is a good point, Riku, because two of the cards did have Gvozdyk up.
Yeah, but it was one of those fights where even if Gvozdyk was winning the rounds, more was coming, more was being taken out of his tank than there was out of Baterbiev's tank, and there was nothing left at that point. So he had to expand so much energy in those first, I'd say, 6-7 rounds just to keep up with Beterbiev and just to survive those clinches. That at the end he had nothing left, and I don't know whether Brendan you saw the same thing, but Beterbiev looked a lot bigger and a lot stronger, and every sort of clinch and everything the referee was laying slide was just being took so much out of Gvozdyk. He was like a rag doll in that fight.
He might have been winning on the round. He might have been winning on the scorecards. They were winning rounds. I mean, he was losing the fight. That was clear to me. He was getting thudded with heavier shots. He was being bullied by a stronger guy. That's what it seemed like. It seemed like he was like almost in the weight division below.
Exactly.
Yeah, it did look that way in the ring as well. There was a big physical advantage. I'm not mean like they were running about the same height in that, but you could just tell that. I mean, it's as if they're made of different stuff. Brendan, we'll go with you with this one. What did you make of the ESPN commentary team?
It's okay. It's like a work in progress.
I kind of marked it down the day because I was listening to them and they just fucking. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Tim Bradley as a fighter. I like Andre Ward as a fighter, but fucking my God, some of the stuff they were coming out with. Like Andre Ward was talking about these two young guys doing this after like 17 fights and they're in here for a unification. I'm like, Andre,
35 years old.
It's like, Andre, they're 2 years younger than you.
35.
It's like they're 2 years younger than Andre Ward. I was like, they're no young guys, But I found that quite funny.
I think the two of them together is too much. Like, you maybe one of them would split fight duties and try and get someone with like some more broadcast experience. And I do like Joe Tessitore on the play-by-play. I think he's he's good at all the sports he does, I feel like.
I like Joe Tessitore. No, I think Joe Tessitore was saying he's like there's no loser for this fight, and he was kind of telling you like each guy can go on and move on for this, and I agreed with that. Because I thought that Gvozdyk, even though he was losing and getting beat on, he was putting a great account of himself across. I thought the way he finds openings and he throws punches and bunches. I mean, it was giving Baterbiev stuff to think about, but I mean, as we say, that this guy just seems to be made of something different.
Yeah, I think the last he's, I can't even say his goddamn name, jeez. He's gonna be a tough night for maybe anyone else in that division. Just because you lose one time doesn't mean you can't write him off.
No, I'd back Gvozdyk definitely against Pascal. I would back him probably against Baterbiev and maybe against Marcus Brown, but we don't know what's left of Marcus Brown anyways. But he's a scumbag, so yeah, he's a scumbag. He's a scumbag, so he can get beat. But yeah, I think I mean Gvozdyk's a top fighter. The winner of this fight is arguably in the pound. Who's Beterbiev? You could probably make a case for him being top 10 in the pound for pound list now. Not based on resume, but beating such a legit guy that beats Adonis Stevenson. So if you go in that linear argument point, the man that beat the man, and Beterbiev's the man now.
Yeah, exactly, man. That's his lineal power, man.
Yeah, exactly. Fury's defending his linear bouncer to the WWF.
Now we've seen Bivol stink a place out. Was it 2 weeks ago? Which was I lasted 4 rounds into the fight and I put it off. I usually sometimes when I see fights are shit on Twitter, I watch them, but it might be like my kind of fight, it's maybe a tactical fight, and I quite like that. I went to watch that and I was thinking to myself, it was like a cat playing with its food, and I can't really watch stuff like that. It was like a guy who just couldn't be bothered to finish the fight, so he'll just take it to 12 rounds. So after seeing Bivol, and we've seen Gvozdyk, and we've seen Baterbiev all box very recently, can you name your top 1, 2 and 3 in the division then? And we'll go with you first, Brendan.
Baterbiev, Kovalev, and then I'll put how do I say his name?
Gvozdyk.
The nail. Just call him the nail.
The nail. And then I'll put in Baterbiev, Jean Pascal, then I'll put in Bivol.
Yeah. Yep. What about you, Riku?
He doesn't do it for me. He boxes great, but He really doesn't fought anybody. Just
yeah, he's a 168 guy, isn't he? I mean, he's tiny at that weight. He should just go down a weight division.
He really should. He really should. I don't understand what the thinking is having him at 175 because it's not as if it's a big money division. But where do you rank him? Where do you rate him? Because I thought it was just me. I see people go nuts for this Bivol, and the first time I watched him was he was on a Matchroom card in Monaco, I think it was, and he was fucking shit. I watched him and I was like, this fucking guy is like, I don't understand it. And any time I've watched him since, he just doesn't float my boat. You know, everything he does is nice and it's neat and it's tidy, but he's no star. He's never going to be a star boxing like that.
Yeah, I mean, my rankings are more or less similar to Brendan's. The only thing I might put like Marcus Brown up there as well. You know, ahead of Bivol. Bivol to me is the worst of the bunch, partly because he's so tiny and also because he can't take guys out. At that weight class, he needs to be taking guys out.
What about, was it Callum Johnson that fought Baterbiev? And it was short, but it was fun, that fight. But do you think even, I don't really know how he would fare against Bivol.
Well, he hasn't fought again for a while, has he? That's the problem with Callum Johnson. He's a Commonwealth gold medalist, isn't he?
Yeah.
He has a great sort of amateur pedigree, well-schooled boxer, but every time he gets a bit of momentum in his career, I mean, the last time the break was due to his father passing away, but since the Monaghan fight earlier this year, when was that? Feb or something like that, he hasn't fought since. So again, we're talking about a 1 year break before he fights, so when we look at it next year, he'll probably have 2 fights in 2 years. That's no way to build any momentum. Yeah, exactly.
He's not a young guy either, right? He's like 33, 34 years old.
Something like that, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and, well, I think we've talked this one to death. Well, no less, but no matter of fact, we'll go with that. Who do we want to see match up next? Because we've got Kovalev against Canelo coming up. Now, I know Baterbiev and Top Rank they're really wanting Kovalev. I don't really think it matters how the result goes against Canelo. They're really wanting this big fight back in Russia. I would love to see that. I still think that the Crusher's got a lot there, but he's not as faded as what people seem to think he is. But I think he would lose the name Crusher if he fought against Baterbiev, because that guy is a crusher. I'm totally sold on him now. I wasn't beforehand. I'm completely sold on him. I think the guy's great at everything. Where do you think Baterbiev should go next? We'll go with Brendan first.
Kovalev, a big fight in Russia if he wins. If he loses, if he gets folded up by Canelo, then you don't really want to see that fight. If he gets robbed by the judges, sure, do it, no problem. They'll do they'll do 50,000 seats over there. It'll be a big event for both of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And the money's probably there as well, as in terms of, you know, Russian billionaires put a lot of money to have a global event like that. So I think that would be excellent.
What about Gvozdyk? You know, do we think maybe he should chase Bivol down? I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, Bivol needs to start fighting guys at this level anyway. And with Gvozdyk coming off a loss, a KO loss, you know, does it make sense? Is it a fight that Bivol would think, well, that's a good name to have on my record, and then it also gives Gvozdyk the chance to get a world title back? I mean, that's a fight that makes sense, right?
Yeah, but I'd like to see Alvarez fight against Alvarez, not Canelo, the guy that beat Kovalev.
Alvarez.
Yeah, that's a great matchup, you know, especially off a loss, and probably easy to make with Top Rank as well.
Yeah, and you know, guys, we're just about to move on to this weekend's previews, but you know, I just wanted to bring this up. I sent you a video today. Is it Tyan Booth? Talking about AJ bullying him. Did any of you guys watch this?
Which one? Kicking out of the AJ gym?
Yeah, kicking him out of the AJ gym. Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not, but it was fucking pretty funny.
I watched it, but I was watching it. I was watching work with my headphones, and I thought, if at any point something stops and starts playing for my speakers, I'll be sacked.
Yeah, I could actually feel my brain cells like just like chucking it. It was like something at The Simpsons. Like my brain's like, oh fuck this, I'm out of here. If this is what you're going to put in your ears. But I was away a walk up the brae the day, and he's talking about Myra Hindley and how all right, I mean she killed loads of people and she was a woman. All right, it was on children. He's like, and then throws in Adam Smith. Ask Adam Smith how easy it is to kill children.
Yeah, how easy it is to bury kids. Ask Adam Smith.
I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, man. I was like, oh God, I don't know if I want to listen to this anymore. But if anybody's heard this or watched it, go on YouTube and check it out. It's bizarre. It really is bizarre, but it's funny.
Did anybody see that Twitter post they posted? Somebody from AJ's team asked him to take the video down.
Yeah, man, and threatening him with legal action.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's got 24 hours to get that done or something like that, or he'll be getting fucking him for lawyers. It was a woman. It was some sort of fucking woman for AJ's team.
Yeah, but I don't think he's one of these. Yeah, but I think he's one of these guys. He just doesn't give a shit, to be honest. he just finds it funny, right?
It's when he says he's like, I fucking wanted to catch him with a punch for the gods. He says, but that's a big risk. It was funny guy, man. But let's move on to this weekend's action. Riku, obviously you're going to be attending it, so we'll start off with the main event. Josh Taylor versus Regis Prograis, World Boxing Super Series final. Doesn't get much bigger than this, does it?
No, but I don't think anybody cares that it's the World Boxing Super Series final. As in that it's the final, it's a unification fight. I think it's a very good fight. It's a genuine, I mean, this is what gets said all the time for every matchup in boxing, but for me, it's a genuine 50-50. Both have beaten good guys. Taylor's a bigger fighter. Prograis, a bit smaller guy, but I think he probably hits harder. So I think, it's going to be a great matchup. It's hard for me to call who's going to win. Something makes me think that Prograis is going to win, mainly because Taylor's not hard to find. It's quite easy to hit, and I think in a fight at this level, that could be the difference. How much he can take the punishment, and we've spoken many times in this podcast about how close the Postal fight was, and if Taylor can't up his performance levels from what we've seen before, I think this is going to be a Prograis win on points, but a relatively close fight anyway.
Brendan, as we were talking about this the other day, Regis Prograis came to the UK. He's been over here for, must be near on a month now he's been over here. And the boy has been grafting his ass off, selling this fight and raising his profile. Been fantastic to see when you think that some guys that fight at a lower level haven't even got a Twitter. But Regis Prograis, he's over here. He definitely thinks this is a big chance for him to burst onto the world scene. What do you think about the fight, and where do you think that Prograis or Taylor will win it?
I obviously like the matchup. It's the best two guys in the division. That's what we all want for, and that's all you can ask for. Giant unification, the Ali Trophy, the big money. I'm gonna lean towards. I'm gonna agree with Riku, and I'm gonna lean towards my fellow American, Mr. Regis. And I think, I just think Josh Taylor seems much bigger, but I also think that's a problem with him for making the weight. It's a struggle at this point, and I think my guy's gonna get a late stoppage.
Well, that is a very valid point, because Josh did miss the weight against Baranchik, and it took him a second attempt to get the fight on. So, I mean, that is a valid point. I mean, we know that Josh is very tall for the weight, but I think that we need to... I know that I was saying about the Victor Postol fight that Taylor needed that knockdown for that fight. I don't care what the judge's card says, but Victor Postol is a fucking monster. He's huge in there. You would not believe the height of this man. And he boxes superbly. Now, I've been swaying back and forward myself about this fight, but now I'm settling on Josh. And my reason for settling on Josh is Regis Prograis has not fought anybody near the calibre of, the Iceman, or he's no fought even a Baranchik. Josh Taylor's come through these tough fights against tough guys.
Yeah, but I'd say Indingo's probably a better name than Baranchik, and he knocked him out clean. And the Postal that he fought against was a guy that fought against Saya Ozgul next, the Southern Area champion, and took him to points. So,
Yeah, but I mean, the Julian Sandongo, I mean, that's when I interviewed Regis Prograis, was just before that fight. It was supposed to be Postal as well, but we didn't really know how good Julius Ndongo is. Julius Ndongo made his name against Ricky Burns.
Yeah, or the Russian kid that he knocked out before
but we
that,
did,
wasn't
even
it?
that way, he knocked him out inside a round, and that came from nowhere. So we actually didn't know. We've not really got a clue how good Julius Ndongo actually was, because as soon as he stepped in against Terence Crawford, fucking the inevitable happened. But so, I mean, I thought at the time that was that Ndongo was better than Postal. Actually says it in my interview with Prograis. But after seeing both fighters again, I would revise that. I would say Postal's got a hell of a lot more in the tank than what Ndongo did.
It's always difficult comparing opponents too, as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Styles
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's just an exciting fight. It's it's good to see we had all the money arguing BS in the beginning, location, and that's all over, and it's gonna go down Saturday.
Yeah, I've got to admit though, I mean, I think Regis Prograis, he comes across as a cool kid. Well, he's not even a kid, he's older than Josh Taylor, but he comes across as a cool guy. He's very confident in his own ability. He's got one of the best backstories in boxing. I mean, do you guys know this? I mean, he survived Katrina.
It's now been Barnes has written a piece about in the Independent, and I think there must be. I mean, shout out to Melissa Takimoglu Melpr, who's done, as we're saying, an amazing job with him in terms of at least raising his profile in the boxing media and the boxing consciousness, and even some of the national media. But that story is now being told, and I think I was speaking to a mate, and he was saying to me today that actually I probably like Prograis more than I like Taylor, because he's just come across so well, and as such an interesting guy. Whereas I guess with Taylor, he's just very focused, but he comes across a bit cold at times, I think.
Yeah, I think that we've got the Regis Prograis story, and then we know that he came up with the Charlos as well. So he's been used to fighting bigger guys, which, so I mean, that kind of goes in the face of Josh Taylor's he's a much bigger man than him. But I would also say that, I mean, as you says and Brendan says, Josh Taylor's easy to find. I would go against that. I would say that Josh Taylor's easy to find when Josh Taylor gets excited. Josh Taylor, sometimes, he did it against Baranchik, he stayed in the pocket too long. When he gets excited, and he starts taking risks. I think if Josh Taylor went in and kept his cool and boxed to a game plan, then you would see a far more evasive Josh Taylor. Do you know what I mean? I think that he gets kind of caught up, and he's got a bit. Do you know what? Josh Taylor's got a bit of that Terence Crawford thing in him. See that nasty? He's got something in him it's no nice. Where he fucking wants to hurt people in the ring until the fight's over, and then he's want to take them out for a pint. But he's definitely got that spitefulness in the ring, which I think we just Prograis got that same spitefulness. So this one for me is just going to be I can see this being the fight of the year, because both of these styles, when you picture it in your mind, both of them should gel so much. You're not going to see a lot of grappling in this. You're not going to see guys, just getting their heads on each other's shoulders. You're going to see a skill level in this fight that we've not really seen a lot of this full year of boxing. What do you think about that one, Brendan?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I like I said, I stick to my guns. I stick to Prograis, and I don't know. I like his whole backstory. I like his personality. He's like a bubbly guy. I think he's very been happy with the media he's gotten over in London, and he's been all over the place. He doesn't get that shit here. No one knows who he is here. anyone outside like a hardcore boxing follower would be like, who the Regis Philbin? Who the fuck is this? Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes here. But he's got a great story. He's got a good looking guy. You know.
Get some shit hot tattoos as well, the boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's just like a cool cat, isn't it? Like the way he speaks and everything's just got that swagger about him.
Yeah, he's definitely got a bit. He's definitely got that star quality about him. He just needs the attention. I think he's probably really enjoyed his time in the UK. To be fair,
I think he's done with like Lou DiBella after this fight too. So if he wins, that he's out there on the market. I think for anyone to grab.
Yeah, his contract. Yeah, I've heard his contract is up, and for me, the sensible thing is to sign with Top Rank, unify if he wins to unify against Ramirez, and then move up to 147 and fight against Crawford in massive pay-per-view.
I say, yeah, you can't go wrong with Top Rank. He couldn't, or PBC, a lot of guys for him to fight as well too if he wanted to move up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think either of these guys won this fight. You might find them having one more fight at 140 and then they're going to step up. But I think that Josh Taylor's already tight at the weight. I don't think he's got. I don't think he's got much
Josh
longer.
I think Taylor will be finished if he wins this. I think he's onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Riku, on you go. Yeah. Is that us? We talked this one enough, or will we move on to the undercard?
Yeah, I mean, for the undercard, there's only one fight to really cover the rest. But I mean,
Ricky Burns and Lee Selby.
So Ricky Burns is back.
Fucking
Ricky Burns against Lee Selby, yeah.
Fucking yes.
Does Ricky Burns' check just go right to Frank Warren, or does he get any money out of it?
No, I think now
writing checks to Big Frank.
I think now he might even get some of his own fun coupons to spend. But on the undercard, we've got that undercard fighter, Josh Taylor, and Regis Prograis undercard fighter, Big Derek Chisora. And he'd be fighting David Price. Now, this is what it is, isn't it, Riku? It's no fucking... You can see this fight's only going to go one way, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's enough analysing of this fight, but for me, it's, Derek Chisora will probably wear him down and then knock the giraffe out.
Yeah, I got it. I'm gonna have to agree and go with the old standby saying, "Big tree, fall hard." In the middle rounds.
Yeah, and I mean, as I heard somebody else saying today, as soon as you beat David Price, you just test positive for taking steroids anyway. So I mean, totally expect this fight to be shrouded in some sort of controversy, and you just know Price will probably keep it dangerous, make it a decent fight between up to the 4th round, maybe even as long as the 6th round, and then I can just see Chisora just catching him with one of these big looting hook, big looting left or right hook, and he's just going to see that big tree fall. It's so predictable with Price though, anytime we see him in it.
I'm more intrigued to see whether somebody's actually in Chisora's corner.
He'll end up with his manager in there.
I don't think he really needs much in there for this fight, to be honest.
David Hay.
David Hay will be cut man. He'll be in there with a spit bucket. He'll be in there as corner man and probably fucking ring announcer as well. And he'll probably fucking he'll be doing everything. David Hay will do anything for 50 pence.
And he'll do the interview after the
fight. Also on the undercard, we've got Lee Selby and Ricky Burns. This is just it's a decent matchup, but it's two guys that are definitely on the out of the sport. Brendan, do you think this one? Do you think it could be fun?
I don't know. Lee Selby isn't usually much fun, right?
Yeah, but Lee Selby isn't he usually 140 £?
That's true. I'm gonna take. Yeah, he's moving. Yeah. I'm gonna go with since I picked against your guy, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take Ricky Burns here. He's gonna turn back the clocks and gonna take care of what is it, Welsh Mayweather?
Aye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's gonna get stopped.
Riku, do you think that you'll be able to notice Lee Selby in the ring when he actually weighs 140 £, and doesn't he look as if he's dying of AIDS?
I don't know. I might think it's Andrew. No idea. Yeah, I mean, his last win is against Scotty Cardle, and I mean Ricky Burns' last win is against Scotty Cardle. So, and Lee Selby, I can't even remember who he fought last and when that was, but it's one of those fights that it's a loser goes home type of fight.
Yeah,
I think Ricky Burns will probably win that fight just down on work rate, to be honest.
That's exactly what this is, Riku. This is, do you know, it's actually quite a respectable way for fighters to draw their career out. I mean, I like it when this is how careers kind of like come to an end. You don't want to see them getting in there against a fucking up and coming killer. You know what I mean? Let two of these old guys kind of finish each other off. You know, it's like a survival of the fittest. You're a winner, you get home. You know,
I love it. I'm a big fan of a washed old guy fight. No problem with it. Like you said, as long as they're not in there getting hammered by some, 23-year-old fucking upcoming stud, let them have a fight. Sometimes those fights turn into nice little slugfest.
Yeah. We had one not too long ago in the States. I can't fucking, was it Vargas? Was it Francisco Vargas against somebody? I can't remember actually, but it was a fight that kind of people were shitting on beforehand, and then when they seen it, it turned out to be one of these fucking Mexican just punch for a punches, and after it everybody was kind of fucking well entertained.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with one of those.
Yeah, well guys, I mean, actually, this has actually been quite quick for us, isn't it, considering we had so much to cover, but that's us hitting an hour and 5 minutes, so what do we think, we've done enough tonight?
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, well,
sorry.
Thanks very much for coming on.
Decided to get hit by a train.
Yeah, man, it's fucking poor guy's family, but I mean, so some things are more important. But you didn't miss much, you were only talking about the card in Newcastle, and I don't know how much of that you actually seen.
I just seen that everyone thought the announcers were scumbags and they were trying to rob 50 and Ritson.
Yeah.
Well, that was pretty much what we said.
Yeah, so I saw on Twitter, and I was like, I always hope a guy named Big Cheese does well, but you know what? 2 losses at domestic level, Big Cheese, maybe medium cheese now.
Cheese slice. But guys, thanks very much for coming on. I know you're busy tonight, and it's been great. I know we usually do it on a Thursday, but because Celtic are that good and playing in Europe, they come first now. But thanks very much for your time, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you later.
All right, brilliant. Speak to you soon. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
See you, bye.